You know, we've all heard those horror stories about homeowners associations. But this one is a little different. It's the story of a homeowner who took his HOA to court and somehow lost the whole case before it even really got started. So how on earth does that happen? Let's get into it.
Yeah, that's the big question here, isn't it? Because this whole story isn't actually about who was right or who was wrong. It's all about who showed up to court, and this is the crucial part, who had the legal right to even speak.
All right, first things first, let's set the stage and meet the players in this neighborhood dispute.
Okay, so on one side, you've got our petitioner, a homeowner named Jeff Lion. And on the other side, his HOA, the Ranch Meadows Homeowners Association. Now, Mr. Lion claimed they broke their own rules, so he filed a formal complaint. Seems pretty standard so far, right?
Now, the timeline here seems pretty normal, but there's a really important detail you gotta catch. See, the original date was back in November, but it was Mr. Lion himself who asked to move it to January 9th. The court said, sure, no problem. So just remember that. The guy who filed the complaint is the one who handpicked this final court date.
Okay, so the big day, January 9th, finally rolls around. Everyone's ready to go, but this is exactly where the story takes a nosedive.
It's 9 a.m., the exact date and time that Mr. Lion himself requested. The judge is on the bench, the HOA has its lawyer there, everyone is present and accounted for, well, almost everyone. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The man who started this whole process, the person who picked this specific date, just didn't show. He was a complete no-show to his own hearing. But here's the thing, the courtroom wasn't totally empty on his side. Someone was there for Mr. Lion, and who they were and what they tried to do is what completely blew up this case. So, let's do a head count. You've got Judge Thomas Shedden, the HOA's attorney, and two of Mr. Lion's own witnesses. They stood up and told the judge that, yeah, Mr. Lion wasn't coming, but don't worry, they were there to represent him.
And this is the moment where the entire case slams into a legal brick wall. Can a witness, someone who's just there to give testimony, step in and suddenly act as a lawyer?
Well, according to the Arizona Supreme Court, the answer is a big, fat no. Rule 31 is crystal clear. It says that just showing up to argue a case in these hearings is legally considered the practice of law.
And what do you need to practice law? You guessed it, you gotta be a licensed attorney. The judge asked Mr. Lion's witnesses a simple question. Are you lawyers? They said they weren't. And just like that, game over. They were legally forbidden from saying a single word on his behalf.
And that one simple procedural rule, it basically set off a domino effect that brought Mr. Lion's entire case crashing down in a matter of minutes.
So in any lawsuit, there's this thing called the burden of proof. All it means is that the person making the accusation, in this case Mr. Lion, has the job of presenting evidence to convince the judge that they're right. It's on you to prove your case.
But just think about it for a second. If Mr. Lion isn't there, and the two people he sent aren't legally allowed to speak, who is left to present his evidence? Absolutely no one. From the court's point of view, his entire case was just silence. Zero evidence was put forward. Nothing.
So you can see how the judge's logic just clicked into place, one step after another. 1, Mr. Lion picked the date. 2, he didn't send a legally authorized person to speak for him. 3, because of that, no evidence was presented. So, 4, he didn't meet his burden of proof. The judge really had no other choice. Case dismissed.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? Well, this whole situation is a really powerful and kind of brutal lesson about how the legal system actually works.
The truly wild thing is, we'll never know if the HOA actually did anything wrong. We never heard the arguments, we never saw the evidence. None of it mattered. Mr. Lion lost his case for one simple reason. He failed to follow the rules. It was a total loss by default, and a perfect example of how sometimes, in the world of law, procedure is everything.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty tough question to chew on, doesn't it? In a system built on rules and procedures, it shows that following the process can sometimes be even more important than the actual truth of the situation. It really makes you wonder, how do we make sure the rules of the game don't get in the way of justice itself?